Good morning, everyone. How is everyone doing this glorious Wednesday? All right. I know in the title it says some new Charlie Kirk footage. You may or may not have seen this already. before before I play it, I would just like to say that if you glorify the man's death, then there's something seriously wrong with you. I don't care if you support the things he said or not. Glorifying anyone's death is abhorrent and disgraceful. So let me be very clear. I am in no way celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. I am only providing this footage just because it's out there and I find it interesting. So, that being said, I am not going to screw around and wait. I'm just going to play it. If you miss it, you can come back. Now, I got this from Candace Owen. If you're familiar with her, you know she's got some wild theories. I don't agree with many of the things she says, but to be fair, I'm just a peasant like everybody else. What does my opinion matter anyway, right? There's no audio to this footage. It was taken directly behind Charlie Kirk. It doesn't show any great graphic detail. And it's a little choppy, and because the source I took it from was, I just took a live screen capture, and they were moving around during the video. So there's parts of it that's in slow motion. I also took a screenshot of the crowd's immediate reaction, like who had front row seats. It's not as disturbing as maybe some of you perverts would like, but I'm going to play it nonetheless, so here goes.
Hey, Terrell was at his office when he showed me this, and here we go. You can just play this, and if you guys are just on audio, you'll obviously need to come cut this on video because I can't really describe, obviously, the question that's being asked.
Yeah, there's the audio. Sorry, I didn't know there was audio to it.
Recorder or something, I can confirm, you'll see later, that it's whipping fast and it looks white when it whips fast, but that is in fact his necklace. That is his necklace, and I find that for some reason to be very strange that the necklace goes up first. You can see this obviously, and by the way, there's no gore in this, so you don't really need viewer discretion because, like I said, which kind of broke the internet, the bullet didn't go through, and not only did not go through, it didn't even cause any sort of a mess. His perfectly white t-shirt was white.
That's it. I'm not going to play it again. If you want to see it again, you can back up this stream. I find it disturbing that anybody would want to see that, but there it is. I mean, to be fair, I was curious. Yeah, seeing stuff like that does not entertain me. I'm not one of these people that enjoys like those old videos, like Faces of Death from back in the day, that shows actual people dying. I don't know what kind of human being would enjoy that sort of thing. The shock value I get, okay, but to enjoy something like that, that's there's something massively wrong with your head if you enjoy it. Okay, that's it. And it looks like maybe one or two people were here to see it. So if you missed it, you can back up. If you can't back up video, let me know in the chat, and maybe I'll play it again later. I don't know. Depends on how many people show up, and if anybody actually asks for me to play it again. All right. That being said, pre-market has just begun, and it looks like Looks like we've got a fair amount of green going on. Bitcoin has taken a drop this morning. I changed my layout a little bit here. I've got the news for each chart that I've got up. I now have some news on the side here regarding each ticker that's on the screen. And it looks like the only news really for Bitcoin and crypto is that we're bracing for some volatility ahead of the Fed rate decision, which will be at about 11:30 today. And as you know, what's his nuts, Mr. Jerome Powell likes to be late. So I may or may not still be live for that. We'll see. See how we're feeling. Depends on the kind of day we have. I'm expecting a little more volatility in the market today as compared to yesterday, which was pretty boring, if I'm being honest. Wasn't really much going on. Ethereum following Bitcoin, of course. There is some new news regarding Ethereum. They're looking to cut their bridge times by 98% to 13 seconds. That'd be pretty awesome. Ethereum enters leverage-fueled equilibrium after silver bullet boost from BlackRock, huh? And as we can see, the dollar is a little shaky this morning. It's still in the same general area where it's been. Ethereum futures sucking it. I bought a long right after it got down here, but I haven't really recovered it. It's just one little long. Look, the notional value is 1/10 of an Ethereum, so it's not much. Not much because I don't have much to play with. Our silver futures coming down. Oil futures took a spike this morning, right after. I mean, it was right after this little bit of news talking about oil and AI optimism. And then the futures shot up. I think that's pretty funny. Something else I find very funny. This is gold futures. Something else I find funny are cocoa futures. Cocoa, of all things, has been rather volatile lately. I find it very interesting. Cocoa. Apparently, it's a very important thing to some people. All right. It is still pre-market. I'm going to go and cut over to the news and see what everybody's saying in the news, eh? Hope everybody's doing good this morning. Doing well, I should say. I hope everybody makes lots of money today.
Inheriting as we see him head to this confirmation hearing today.
Whose confirmation?
I mean, he's coming into this position, should he be confirmed by the Senate, to an agency that's, really handling a lot.
It's that Mullen guy to replace what's-her-face. I really don't care. That guy cracked me up, though. I saw the video of him picking a fight with somebody in some Senate hearing. He stood up. You want to go? You want to go? So yeah, of course he's going to be under fire for his own volatility, right? Anywho, I am looking for some worthwhile news because I can't say I really give a damn about that. About this guy and everything they're going to pump into the news. I'm sure it's going to be just another smear campaign, as they always do. I'm sure we'll find a sexual harassment case. I'm sure it'll show up. They always do. Anytime anybody wants any position of power, there's some sort of sexual harassment. It never fails, man. It never fails. Never. So what's everybody looking forward to today? Drop a comment in the chat. Tell me where you're at financially. See if I can look up something for you. I'll be happy to. I'm going to get a little deeper into some things today. But so far it is a slow going morning. I'm looking for some decent news. Lululemon posts Q4 earnings beat. Disappointing guidance, huh? Lululemon. Fuck out of here. Like I give a damn about Lululemon. I'm not invested. That's why I don't give a damn about them. They were a very volatile stock not long ago. I'm going to pop over to Bloomberg. And I'm going to be in and out before the market opens. I'm going to go have a smoke here shortly because, yeah, we're just waiting on the market to open. Let some news play.
From Axios just moments ago.
So the second part of that headline is, I think, what I find a little bit confusing, because this administration definitely does not want to see an energy shock, definitely wants to try to make sure that consumers aren't the ones vulnerable for what Trump would call an excursion, this war in the Middle East. So it would be interesting if the White House gave it a basically green flag to strike a huge gas processing facility within Iran.
Reporting from Axios, Pete, from a senior Israeli official, the Israeli Air Force struck the largest natural gas processing facility in Iran, located in the southwest of the country. The strike was carried out in coordination and with the approval of the United States.
So when we've been kind of wargaming and playing this out internally, I think that Trump obviously likes maximum leverage, right? And the problem I think we're running into right now is maximum leverage requires, hitting their oil fields, hitting that, whether it's on Carg Island or elsewhere, and kind of reducing their ability to generate income. The flip side of that is everything that we do that puts maximum pressure on them probably puts maximum pressure on us in terms of disrupting oil. So I think this is a real delicate, balance. I don't know which way it swings out in the end.
At the same time, people are saying the U.S. is less sensitive to higher oil prices, and ultimately this is a problem for Europe, not necessarily the United States. Increasingly, the U.S. and assets here are considered havens once again. How far does that go? I mean, do you think that the market is being overly complacent about how much the U.S. economy could get hit?
Yeah, so one thing I do want to say is I think we should maybe temporarily suspend the Jones Act, and that's the act that forces U.S. ships to go from U.S. ports. And that's one reason we ship a lot of gasoline out of the south and we import a lot into the north. So I think we could do some things like that. Having said that, I think this is really coming down to the supply chain. It's going to be fertilizer. It's going to be plastics, the ethene, the polyethylene, benzene, right? As you start seeing those slow down, especially in China or Asia, it becomes our problem, right? What happens when someone who's trying to make a phone, for example, in India can't make it because some components not being produced in India because of the plastic? So global supply chains, I think that's one thing we learned so much from COVID, right? They're very intricate, they're very fragile in many ways. And I always go back to what the CEO of Whirlpool said. A washing machine that's 99% done is not done. And I think that's the growing risk here, is little disruption to the supply chain that no one would think about, and all of a sudden we have problems down the road. I think we're not there yet, but again, I'm increasingly nervous the market's not pricing this in a week we're going to get this, ooh, shoot, we are in deep trouble and we're 5% down.
Well, so listening to Jeff Curry and listening to yourself, I'm ready to sell everything and go to cash and ultimately hide in bed. And at the same time, Delta and American Airlines come out and they talk about how consumers are spending so much that it offsets the losses that are felt in higher costs from some of these supply chain disruptions. How far do these disruptions have to go before the momentum in the U.S. consumer isn't enough anymore to stave off a true downturn?
So I think on this side of the equation, it has to start disrupting our actually good supply chain. So you have to actually see final goods having problems. So it's not just the oil and gasoline, it's going to be plastics. It's going to be shortages of something where people are like, ooh, wow, so-and-so's not going to make their quarter because they're not getting their goods finished. Again, we're not seeing that yet. I think that comes down the road. The flip side of this is what's happening in jobs, right? Because of this attack, no one's talking about the worst job report we've had in a long time, NFP, right? So there's weakness there. You're seeing, I think, a credit pullback. And I'm fairly comfortable where credit spreads are right now, but I think credit's getting tighter, right? Credit is an integral part of keeping this economy rolling. So if you start seeing companies not get access to credit, you got to slow down there. I think individuals, we're seeing some of that again as well, where we've been talking about this for a little while, but the working poor, there seems to be an increasing number of people who have jobs and are still struggling to make ends meet. And that's a very unique situation. We've never really had a recession kind of caused by that. So I think these things are all adding together. And if I'm the Fed, I'm going to try and be more dovish. I don't think they will be. But I think there's risks from all sorts of things that are hitting us right now.
Peter, you mentioned the Jones Act. That waiver is the first lever for the administration to pull. And we have reporting that that's coming within days. What else do you think they're going to do? Because I keep hearing that there, minimum, is a discussion about an export ban when it comes to U.S. fossils and fuel products to the rest of the world?
Well, to some extent, I think you almost need the Jones Act to be repealed temporarily to do that, right? Because otherwise you can't take the oil and gasoline that we have sitting in the southern ports and bring them to the Northeast. So I think that's a step in that. Yeah, I think this is, again, I'm going to go back to what we've been discussing now for a year. You know, I try and mention every second time I'm on. PROSEC, or Production for Security. This has just been a giant wake-up call that everyone has to produce more of their own stuff. And I think anything that's integral, if it's electricity production right now is one of the most important things, probably always has been. Every country has to be re-looking at where they're generating their electricity, how they're doing it, and making sure they're less dependent. Again, I think the president was in Scotland the other day. I don't always agree with everything the president says, but he kind of gave them a lot of grief for not using their own oil in the North Sea. Like, yeah, why aren't you doing that?
Pete, what happens to states like California that are highly dependent on Asian imports?
I think this is, again, you're going to see even within the U.S., some states do much better than others. Again, those who are adopting this, those who are really willing to do make this smelting, refining, they're going to see this shift, right? And they're going to pay a price for that. So again, I think everything has a cost right now, and regulatory environments went one way, and now you're seeing kind of the problems that are caused by these bottlenecks.
Pete, it's always good to see you. Thanks for dropping by. Peter Chair there of Academy. This from Axios just moments ago, just to recap the news for you, from a senior Israeli official. They're reporting the Israeli Air Force struck the largest natural gas processing facility in Iran, located in the southwest of the country. The strike carried out in coordination with and with the approval of the United States. Now, limited information from the US and Israeli side on the record at this point. I think we need that additional clarity to figure out whether we just opened up a new front in this war.
And also, if that means a new front is opened up, what comes next? Does this mean the president is willing to go on facilities there, which means the regime is completely cut off for the lifeblood of their economy?
Makes you wonder where this is going next, Bremo.
Yeah, and whether they're going after the cash flow into Iran. This particular facility is really key and critical to Iran's gas exports. It also provides a lot of the domestic gas usage. So a question of winning the hearts and minds of Iranians, as well as attacking some of the financial resources of the Iranian leadership.
Futures struggling to hold on to gains here in the equity market, just about unchanged on the S&P 500, with an update on stories elsewhere this morning, including an update on that. Your Bloomberg Brief with Yahara. Hey, Yahara.
Exactly, John. Israel striking the largest gas processing facility in Iran. Axios reporting Israel carried out the attack in the southwest of the country with the approval of the U.S. It marks the first time Iran's upstream oil and gas facilities have been targeted so far in the war. Meanwhile, President Trump confirming his planned summit with Chinese leader Xi Jinping has been postponed as the Iran war stretches on. Trump saying his visit to Beijing should happen in about 5 weeks without specifying an exact date. The president going on to say he believes the U.S.-China relationship remains in good standing. And in sports, Venezuela is the winner of the 2026 World Baseball Classic after a 3-2 win over Team USA. It marks Venezuela's first ever tournament championship, and for Team USA, it's the second straight runner-up finish. That's your Bloomberg Brief. John?
Hey, Yahara, thank you. More from Yahara later this hour. Up next on the programme, the morning calls, plus we'll catch up with Steve Richardson of Evercore, with US oil majors hovering near record highs. That conversation up next, live from New York City this morning. Good morning.
At a time when policy in Washington is driving Wall Street, we draw a distinction between the rhetoric and the action, bringing you market-moving guests and original reporting. This is Bloomberg Surveillance.
Breaking news on this Saturday morning.
There's really only one.
All right. Let's take another look. Oh, Bitcoin's still eating it, guys. Ethereum, obviously, following the same. Waiting on it to pop back up. I feel like it probably will. This is just this silly panicking before it'll come back up, most likely. Or it won't. Those are the options. Sorry for the low energy. I'm not feeling too sporty today. It's like crude wants to come up. And I've decided I probably will play that Charlie Kirk video again later. Just because that one little showing of it was kind of short, right? Gold futures coming down. I'd be much more enthusiastic about the stock market if I had a horse in the race, but I currently do not, because I am currently not financially able to invest very much at all, honestly. So, but I try and keep my eye on it so that when I am able, I can do something about it. Palantir, I'm going to guess Palantir might take a little bit of a jump today. Is there anything in the news? No, not really. 21 hours ago. Lockheed Martin. Oh, yeah. Pentagon flags new delays in F-35 software from 2 days ago, huh? Kongsberg, $200 million deal to supply parts for the F-35. Boy, Iran just doesn't know who they're effing with, do they? Blows my mind that these jerk-offs think they've even got a chance. Heat map looking stale. Well, the heat map for crypto is looking pretty stale too. Dollar jumping around. Huh. Yeah, that's going to be largely affected by oil right now. Petrodollar, etc. Why do we have so many people, so much focus on the UK? I mean, yeah, duh, we're trying to get their help, right? Let's tune in and see what they're talking about.
Speaker, three weeks in, she said, oh, there isn't a clear plan behind the US strikes in Iran. That's the question she should have asked at the start. The decision to commit the UK to a war is the biggest decision a Prime Minister can take, and she got it completely wrong.
I didn't hear an answer, Mr. Speaker, and he's right, it is...
If you're just joining us and you want to see that Charlie Kirk footage, it's at the very beginning of this live stream, so back it up. If you can't back up, let me know, I'll play it
actually
again.
picked up the phone and spoke to Mandelson before appointing him. This doesn't make any sense. The Prime Minister told us on the record, and I quote, "I believed the lies he told me." If the Prime Minister didn't speak to him, how can he say he lied to him?
Prime Minister, Speaker, the process is clear. It's been looked at by the independent advisor. And she asked me about the process and judgment on appointments. She appointed the Shadow Justice Secretary. He said last night that Muslims praying in public, including the Mayor of London, practicing his faith, are not welcome. He described it as an act of domination, straight from the Islamist playbook. If we're in my team, he'd be gone. It's utterly appalling. She should denounce his comments and she should sack him.
He wants to talk about justice secretaries. His justice secretary is abolishing jury trials. My shadow justice secretary is defending British values. I know who I would rather have sitting on the front bench next to me, and it's not him.
Man, we are so screwed, man. As a species, these are the leaders in the UK. Unbelievable. Just bitching. It's funny. Let's go over to Bloomberg. Get some more money news.
Right. It's a short-term Band-Aid. It could bring down. Certainly, you could bring down product prices in parts of the country, and that's obviously politically expedient. But we're speculating. We don't know. We could definitely can tell you that investors are concerned about this and what it means. The question is, do you do crude and products? There's a precedent for crude. Products are really what you need. And it would have ripple effects through Latin America, right, where we export most of our product. So I think it's something that investors are asking about, but I do think it's one of those things that would have a short term. It's a global market. You're not going to be able to fix this in any sustainable way, but could you do something for 30 or 45 days that would take the pressure off domestically? Sure.
This market has been incredibly contradictory in a whole host of ways since the war has started in terms of how it's responded. In part, the response by oil major stocks, equities, they're up 4% since the end of February, even though arguably they could benefit dramatically, and it could be
of going to get tested when early detection is actually their ally if they have any cancer cells.
I would suggest that they form a coalition at work or their coalition among their friends.
I can't stand to listen to that voice. Do you have a yapping woman at home that you just can't stand to hear? I'm sorry, am I being insensitive? Move to Thailand. There's none of that BS there. Gender roles are alive and well. And they know how to treat a man.
$5 gas, no one wants to hear that. How quickly do you see that feeding through to the consumer?
Okay, so the consumer's already adjusting to higher gasoline prices. We're up, I think, 82 cents since the outset of the war. From the earliest hours of the war, we attempted to say, look, now the U.S. economy is this $30 trillion dynamic and resilient beast. It can absorb a fairly large shock, and it's going to without throwing the economy into recession. Yep. But that doesn't mean you're not going to see slower growth and higher inflation.
That's
all right,
true.
So here are the numbers that you guys can use to talk to your clients, your family, friends, and at cocktail parties. All right, we won't really see wholesale demand destruction until the price of oil hits $125 a barrel, right? That will translate to roughly about $4.25 on average for unleaded gas across the country. Your mileage may vary. It's going to be higher in some regions and lower in others. Okay, that means we would likely see 4% inflation. That total cost just via the energy channel is about $425 per household. So that gives you a good sense of where we're at. We're not quite there yet. I don't think we're going to get to $5 per gallon on gasoline unless you see a much steeper climb in the price of oil. Now, should this war continue, should we continue to see roughly about 12 million barrels a day not be exported out of the Middle East? Should you see the molecules that result in nitrogen fertilizers and other key petrochemical components that feed into healthcare and tech and other areas of the economy? Well, then we're going to have a different discussion. Right now, the market's clearly keyed on the duration of the war and any potential off-ramp that would restart the export of oil, condensates, natural gas, and other liquids out of the Gulf.
It seems like the view is that this won't be long. It seems like the market's general view is that it's going to be what President Trump originally signaled, that a 4 to 5 week war. We are in day 19 of that. Do you think the market is underappreciating the potential for longer than that timeline?
My sense is that geopolitical risk always has been, is, and always will be the Achilles heel of forward-looking financial markets. So yeah, we're really underestimating just how long this could go. My real concern here, as we circle back to the big policy decision today, is that the Fed's going to look through this. It's what the playbook says they should do, and to be honest with you, it's what they should do. However, they're going to begin watching two things quite closely. First is inflation expectations. One of the big mistakes that was made during the pandemic era is the Fed just completely ignored short-term moves in inflation expectations and public short-term inflation expectations. That was a mistake. They got it right. The Fed, and let's be honest, guys out there, our preferred professional metrics just missed that move in inflation. So the Fed's really going to watch those expectations. Then second, any sign that that move in the top line inflation, the core, will then create the condition not for rate cuts, but for rate hikes. So we're all going to want to watch the balance of risk closely here, not in just today's statement, but as we move forward through the remainder of the year.
And then I know that you're expecting Powell to preach patience, but is there any signal that you're looking for on, whether the Fed is leaning to one side or the other in its dual mandate, inflation versus employment?
So look, when inflation and employment are in tension, the Fed's playbook will tend to suggest that it lean towards reestablishing, or rather protecting and then reestablishing price stability, which is a precondition of maximum sustainable employment. So you should expect Powell to lean a little bit hawkish in not just his statement that opens the show, but also during the press conference. Now, I think markets are pretty well prepared for that. I wouldn't suspect that we'd see a big sell-off in equities just because Powell sends a little bit hawkish on the back end of what's likely to be the largest oil shock since the 1970s. It should be expected. However, I want to just reiterate here, guys, that we really want to focus in on the fact that we're going to see a jump in top-line inflation to between 3.5% and 4%, both in the CPI and PCE in the March and April data that's published in April and May. Don't lose fact of that. We were already seeing, especially in the PCE, a move higher in goods and those very sticky service prices that just weren't a function of turn of the year price increases.
Yep.
And the United States, because we couldn't possibly do it ourselves. Does the Prime Minister agree with them?
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, our independent nuclear deterrent protects us every day, and we should never forget how important it is. And it is important that we renew it. We will do that in the best interests of Britain. I mean, he's openly advocating a plan which he doesn't know how much it would cost and how it would work. That isn't the way to deal with our independent nuclear deterrent.
Sir Ed Davey. Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm surprised at that response. The French can do it. Does the Prime Minister really think Britain can't? But moving on, Mr. Speaker, a New World investigation into GB News has found hundreds of shocking breaches of the rules of impartiality and accuracy. Yet Ofcom has repeatedly refused to take action. Andrew Neil says, just as Fox basically became the channel of Donald Trump, it is clear they have turned GB News into the reform channel. Mr. Speaker, we cannot let GB News propaganda turn our great country into their version of Trump's America. Either the government rules aren't fit for purpose, or Ofcom isn't properly enforcing them. Prime Minister, which is it?
Prime Minister. Well, he's right to raise an important question of free speech and our media. It is a matter for Ofcom, and it's important that we let them deal with it.
We're listening in here as UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is addressing members of Parliament amid the conflict that continues in the Middle East. We have to step away for a brief commercial break, but before we do so, I want to take us out to a live image that we are just getting into our newsroom. Take a look at this. It's inside of the venue where in just about an hour or so, we are going to be watching live for the nomination hearing for Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin. He has been tabbed to be the new Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. That is starting at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and you can catch it here on Live Now from Fox. We'll be right back.
pulled up Al Jazeera. I generally don't like Al Jazeera because they are so left-leaning sometimes with the things they say, but they got some pretty interesting footage.
And it's significant for a number of reasons. It allows Iraq to recoup some of those finances, some of those finances that they've lost because they haven't been exporting. And politically, it means that the dispute has been put aside because of the wider issue going on in this conflict. But internationally, there was pressure too. The U.S. ambassador to Turkey had spoken to authorities in Erbil, trying to facilitate this deal to try and get this oil flowing. So it doesn't fix the entire issue, but it does put Iraqi oil back on the market at a time where the energy sector really needs it.
Asad Bey talking to us there from Baghdad. Asad, as always, thank you very much indeed. Well, the U.S. says it's carried out strikes on Iranian missile sites near the Strait of Hormuz. The waterway is a vital global trade route, and it's largely been closed since the conflict began. My colleague Rishad Salamat spoke to journalist Insamam Rashid about the situation in the strait.
The US forces have targeted the coast of Iran. Around 50 miles or so in that direction is Iran, and there are a number of missile sites on the coast of the Strait of Hormuz which have been targeted overnight with multiple 5,000-pound deep penetrator bombs on these Iranian missile sites. We don't know what the damage yet has been done, if any, or whether these missile sites are in fact completely destroyed. But the US had said that the reason they did this is because these missile strikes pose a risk to international shipping. We know that Iran has used these sites to target vessels in the Strait of Hormuz over the last few weeks, ever since this war began. There's been some data analysis today suggesting around 90 vessels have managed to get through these waters since the war began, mainly made up of Iranian oil vessels passing through and heading to the likes of China. We did see one Pakistani-flagged vessel also get through to Karachi over the last few days. But usually, Rishad, 20% of the world's oil passes through here, around 20 million barrels every single day. By doing this, by having control of these waters, Iran has an effective chokehold on the world's economy. Just back to the US strikes, Iran will likely retaliate to these. We obviously have already seen some attacks in Dubai today, as Zain was mentioning earlier. But if they find out, or if they have any evidence suggesting that these US planes that dropped these bombs had taken off from the UAE, then we know exactly where their retaliation could be pointed to, and that disproportionate attacking of this country would continue.
You're with Al Jazeera's extensive coverage of the war between the US, Israel and Iran. Here's a reminder of the latest developments. Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz says an Israeli strike has killed Iran's intelligence minister Ismail Khatib overnight.
Good.
The Iranian government has not confirmed his death. Funerals are being held for two senior Iranian security.
Oh, eat shit. Fucking funeral processions. Kiss my ass.
It's a key concern that we discussed at last week's United Nations Commission on the Status of Women.
All right, we are about an hour away from market opening. It looks like Ethereum is still crapping the bed. Bitcoin, because it's following Bitcoin. Dollar looking strong, which is largely because of this right here. Oil futures. Congratulations if you bought down here. About 2 o'clock in the morning, looks like they started pumping up. 2 o'clock in the morning, that was about 6 hours ago. Oil seems to be pricing in supply disruption. Yeah, you think? Yeah, man, we've got some higher oil coming, I do believe. Gold futures. Gold and silver is going to plummet because the dollar's doing so well, because oil is doing so well. I say well as in if you're invested in it, you're doing well. But, you know, you're probably not happy about that if you're not and you're just looking at the gas prices, because those are definitely going to come up, I do believe. Looks like pre-market's turning a bit red. I'm telling you, man, I do believe we've got a hell of a crash incoming at some point. No telling when, but this war is likely going to expedite that.
retaliatory attacks from Iran, not just in Israel, but they're saying in the region.
I'll be
that
back.
could.
I will be back. I'm going to go have another smoke while I can. And then once the market opens, I'll be right here.
And retractable banners that stop everyone in their tracks. We print A-frames that bring in business. Post.
That's not right.
Can't fix the SAVE Act and get the fundamentals of election integrity in place for this nation, I don't want them anywhere near President Trump's authority and control, which has proven very good in the management of a crisis that he has literally transformed overnight as compared with past wars.
Yeah, and to think we could trust Congress with all of this intelligence when we know there's so
Exactly.
many leaks out of Congress. I think it was very strategic. President Trump did not go to them in order to get authority,
Right.
which he already has. But Daniel, the government shutdown remains in effect, and TSA agents and other federal workers are still, unfortunately, not being paid, leading to chaos at airports across the country. Here is Speaker Mike Johnson on the shutdown and its impact.
American airports obviously are reaching a breaking point, so severe that airlines are pleading with Democrats to please fund the Department of Homeland Security. It's fallen on deaf ears. 4 separate times, Republicans have voted to fully fund DHS since this chaos ensued. 4 times. And on each of those times, Democrats voted almost unanimously to block the funding.
Daniel, where do we stand with these negotiations? Is there any end in sight to this current mess we're experiencing with TSA?
Unfortunately, not right now. The White House did have a kind of a letter listing where they stood on immigration reforms. That's what Democrats still want. They felt galvanized by the strong public response to those shootings of the protesters in January, but now it's late March, mid-March, and so some of that fever pitch has died down. So you have to wonder, when does the when Democrats decide that the political pain gets too much for them, then they will start to buckle. But so far, I think when we start to see potentially smaller airports, whether they will have TSA agents. Sometimes, you know, if you're at Martha's Vineyard or Nantucket Airport, there's only a couple agents on duty. And so if they all call out, there's no flights out of those islands, and also many smaller airports. And so that's kind of the next shoe to drop that may start to hit headlines.
You know, Gene, I need you to help me out this morning. You know, I'm looking through my notes. It was just last year, right, when President Trump came in and started doging D.C., cutting, slashing, waste. At that point in time, the Democrats cared about federal workers. Then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. Now they're putting certain federal workers out of work. Help me make sense of this.
Well, when Elon Musk stepped in and ran the show, it's as if he opened Pandora's box, and instead of a cricket or a little grasshopper popping out, there was a bevy of rattlesnakes popping out of all the ilk out there in terms of budgetary fraud and misuse of American taxpayer dollars. It's absolutely worse than we thought. The Democrats and the Republicans in the House and the Senate need to look in the mirror and assess their own ability to balance a budget legitimately. They should be denied a paycheck until a budget is secured. And that's all these continuing resolutions as well. If you cannot balance a budget for the greater good of this nation, you don't get paid. In fact, you better look for the exit door.
Can I say one more thing on the Doge is that Musk came in saying, I'm going to cut like $1 trillion.
Daniel. I'm sorry, we got to go. But you know what? The thing is, it's frustrating America. Thanks so much, Daniel and Gene. We appreciate it.
Thanks so
you,
much.
guys.
Stay tuned. The day's top headlines are next.
Newsmax host Alex Kramer joins us after the break. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm John Bachman, and what I love about Newsmax is having the opportunity.
plans. You deserve better. They will customize a plan managed by you, not the government.
I was exhausted all the time, and I just didn't feel like myself. And then came the weight gain. I found out I was like millions of Americans whose thyroid gland wasn't functioning like it was supposed to. And that's why I started taking Actilin, a premium nutritional supplement. Actilin was created by renowned physician Dr. David Brownstein, formulated with 17 powerful ingredients to specifically support your thyroid function, adrenal health, and metabolism. And now, you can get a free bottle of Actilin with our special offer. Just pay a small shipping and handling charge. Plus, receive Dr. Brownstein's free special report, A Doctor's Guide to a Healthy Thyroid. If you're experiencing loss of energy, cold hands and feet, dry skin, weight gain, or joint pain, Actilin may be right for you. Don't wait. Act now. Get your free trial bottle of Actilin, valued at $39.95.
All right, welcome back to First Edition. I'm Alex Kramer. Here's some stories we are following for you this morning. Well, a major security figure stepping away from the Trump administration. So director of the National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent, announcing his resignation due to concerns over the justification of strikes on Iran. So Kent saying that Iran posed, quote, no imminent threat to our nation, while also blaming Israel for influencing the war. President Trump responding, saying that he always thought Kent was, quote, weak on security. And this Attorney General Pam Bondi facing even more questions about Jeffrey Epstein. Congress has subpoenaed Bondi to answer about the Justice Department's investigation in the handling of files related to the late sex trafficker. The Committee on Oversight and Government Reform will hold a deposition on April 14th. And the government's fight against Medicaid fraud spreads to a new state. CMS Administrator Dr. Oz announcing on X that Florida is, quote, a hotspot for healthcare fraud, and that real action is required from state leaders. Now, Florida will be the 5th state investigated by the Trump administration. And airport security unraveling due to the shutdown, and it could get even worse. Acting TSA Deputy Administrator Adam Stahl saying some airports may even close, as more than 50,000 employees have only received one partial payment since February 14th. And the possible closures coming during a historic spring break travel time when more than 170 million Americans are expected to fly. And finally, the Stars and Stripes don't get that storybook ending on the diamond, falling to Venezuela 3-2 in the World Baseball Classic final. Despite having a star-studded lineup, the USA only managed to have 3 hits the entire game. Now it is their second straight time finishing up as the runner-up at the WBC, John and Krisha. So unfortunate, although we are happy for Venezuela. The country has been through a lot, and the United States has really helped usher them into a new era here of freedom. But we always root for USA first, Alex.
I was going to say, Krisha, you really spun that to make it positive.
I know, I'm trying to see the silver lining here.
Yeah, no, I do have to agree with that, but we had such a good build-up, and the players, they wore the Team USA hockey jerseys to walk out in, and then falling by just, one run, very unfortunate, but we'll get them next time.
Well, I'm a Mets fan, so I'm used to losing at baseball. I mean, you're from Georgia, right? So the Braves haven't really done anything in quite a while, right?
Yeah, it's been a minute, okay, John? It's been a minute.
Exactly. Thanks so much, Alex Kramer.
You got it. Thanks, Alex.
Stay tuned. First Edition, we'll be right back.
More from the Newsmax newsroom after this.
You've put up with your old shower for too long. It's outdated, unsafe, and it's time to replace it. But why struggle with a lengthy shower remodel when Jacuzzi can do it in just one day? And there's no need to break a sweat or your budget.
Right now, we're waiving all installation costs, plus offering 0 interest and 0 payments for up to 1 year.
So you can finally convert your old bath to a safer, easy entry shower, complete with a custom seat, grab bars, and slip-resistant floor installed in 1 day.
My overall experience with Jacuzzi has been wonderful. Everything was customized to the way I wanted it for the price that I wanted to pay.
I've had a great experience from start to finish.
Don't take matters into your own hands. Do it the smart way. Give Jacuzzi Bath Remodel a call.
There are only weeks remaining during our limited time offer. We're waiving all installation costs and offering no interest and no payments for up to 1 year. Go to jacuzzibathremodel.com or call 800-991-2952.
If you've been in an accident that wasn't your fault, well, your favorite attorney has a message for you. Collision, calamity, catastrophe? Are you innocent, faultless, above reproach? If you want money, you need an attorney. You need a bulldog. But finding one, it's laborious, it's strenuous, it's stupefying. That's why you gotta call the number on your screen now.
To get your own bulldog, call your favorite attorney now.
They'll help you connect to a legal expert. You have questions, they have answers. They know the legalese, the lingo, the jargon, and the argot.
When I got hit by a car, I was confused, confounded, and concerned. But calling left me calm, composed, and comforted. Thanks, your favorite attorney.
They'll even tell you how much money your case could be worth. $300,000, $2 million, $86,491, all sorts of numbers.
Call your favorite attorney now. He'd call you, but he doesn't have your number.
Call 800-513-2164.
Slip and falls, work accidents, car, truck, bus, motorcycle, motorbike, e-bike, tandem bike. These bulldogs will make sure people pay. And if you don't get paid, the attorneys don't get paid, and I don't get paid.
After I was blindsided and sideswiped by a fat tire e-bike towing a skateboarder, I didn't know what to do. But a friend recommended that I call his favorite attorney. And I got results. Now, he's my favorite attorney.
It doesn't matter what kind of vehicle it was. As long as it had an engine and the accident wasn't your fault, call your favorite attorney now.
So I compel you, I implore you, I beseech you to pick up that phone and call now to see what your case could be worth.
To get a windfall, you first need to call.
Thanks, your favorite attorney.
Thanks, your favorite attorney.
Thanks, your favorite attorney.
So if you've been in an accident that wasn't your fault, call your favorite attorney now.
800-513-2164. That's 800-513-2164.
Welcome back. President Trump says he is not happy with the UK's response to the conflict with Iran, directing repeated criticism at British Prime Minister Keir Starmer.
On that note, let's head to foreign correspondent Shelby Wilder, live in London. Good morning, Shelby.
Good morning, John and Krisha. Yeah, President Donald Trump continues to escalate his attacks on UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, as the British government has said it will not be drawn into a wider war in the Middle East, along with countries across Europe that have resisted sending military support for the US-Israel campaign against Iran. I took to the streets to ask people in London about the UK government's position. Here's some of what they told me.
I'd like to take this opportunity first to thank Mr. Trump and Bibi to be supporting us after 47 years. Eventually, one president has got to come out and support Iran. And eventually, we will see the peace in Iran by removing this regime.
So you would like the UK to get involved in the war for Iran?
Absolutely. I'm quite disappointed as a British person that British government has done nothing yet to support Iranian and Iran. We know that IRGC is a terrorist group, terrorist organization, but why on earth this country has not done anything yet?
What would you want to say to the UK government in regards to supporting the United States and Israel in the war with Iran?
I want to say, Mr. Starmer, don't be useless, because he's doing nothing. He's doing nothing for Iranian people. America and Israel coming to help us, but this government do nothing about it, even not helping us. Even none of the European countries, they do anything about it. America asking for the help for Hormuz Strait, to help them to do all the shipment to go. Nobody want to do anything. They left everything to America and Israel, and it's not fair.
What would you say to the Trump administration?
I want to say just carry on. I want to help them, because it's not doing for America, it's doing for the whole world. If this government goes, everywhere going to be peace, everywhere going to be safest.
Now, I also spoke with members of the public who oppose military support for the US and Israel, including military veterans from this country who said they do not want the United Kingdom to be pulled into another prolonged conflict. They told me how they had served in the Middle East. But others, as you heard in that video, questioned why the UK has not formally designated Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organization, despite growing political pressure. Back to you.
Thanks so much, Shelby Wilder. We appreciate your report. Stay tuned. First edition only on Newsmax 2. We'll be right back.
More from the Newsmax newsroom straight ahead.
Hi, I'm Bianca.
There's the basic way to redeem your credit card rewards. And then there's the best way with the Cards Optimizer from Intuit Credit Karma. Get tips that show you ways to earn more rewards and see how to redeem them to get the max value so you can take your rewards farther. Download the app to get started.
Here's the truth about crypto that no one's talking about. When prices are low, people buy less, and fear may reign. Warren Buffett said when others are fearful, be greedy. Is this your opportunity? Explore over 100 cryptos on eToro today.
That once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. But be careful. Many policies you see do not have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. Call this number to learn more. This plan was designed with a rate lock for people on a fixed income who want life insurance that fits their budget and is simple to get. Coverage options start at $9.95 a month, less than 35 cents a day. Act now, and your rate will be locked in for life. It will never increase, guaranteed. This is lifelong coverage that can never be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Guaranteed. And your acceptance is guaranteed, with no health questions. You cannot be turned down because of your health. Call for your information kit and read about this rate lock for yourself. You'll also get a free beneficiary planner. Both are free with no obligation. Don't miss out. Call for information, then decide. Read about the 30-day 100% money-back guarantee. Don't wait. Call this number now.
Call now and you'll also get this free beneficiary planner. Use this valuable guide to record important information and your final wishes. And it's yours free just for calling. So don't wait. Call 1-800-355-9660. That's 1-800-355-9660. There's no risk or obligation. That number again is 1-800-355-9660. That's 1-800-355-9660. Call now.
Welcome back. Let's head to Newsmax senior correspondent John Huddy.
He's live in Ramat Gan with the very latest. John.
Yeah, guys, and I'm here in an apartment that was hit yet again by another cluster munition. The Iranians are using these cluster bombs on these ballistic missiles. Basically, they're loaded with, the warheads are loaded with them, and then they disperse over several miles. And we're seeing not only the damage over the last couple of weeks, I've been talking about this over and over, but now how deadly they are here in this apartment. I'm with Oren Marmerstein. You're the spokesperson for the Israel's Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, sorry. Tell me about kind of where we are and walk us through what we're seeing here and what happened.
John, what happened here is heart-wrenching. This is a flat with two elderly people. We are in a civilian neighborhood, Ramat Gan.
Right.
Only civilians.
Suburb of Tel Aviv.
Exactly. Grandfather, grandmother, grandpa, and grandma were sitting here, and they were murdered by the Iranian regime. Iranian regime ballistic missile fired directly towards civilian center, killed these elderly couple.
And sadly, they were just a few meters from the safe space, but they just tragically didn't get there in time. And this is what we're seeing. We've talked to IDF generals, officials about this. The Iranians aren't firing at bases with these missiles, and particularly with the cluster munitions. They're targeting civilian areas. They're specifically doing that, and they've been doing it now throughout the course of this operation.
You're absolutely right. They are going after our grandfathers, our grandmothers, our daughters, our women. They are going after civilians, just as they did towards their own civilians. Just remind you and the viewers, they slaughtered thousands of civilians in Iran. Now they are going after Israeli civilians. This is the nature of this regime.
They're even targeting Jerusalem, the crossroads, the intersection of all major religions, and one of the holiest sites in Islam.
Exactly. They just fired at the Holy Sepulchre, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and just by miracle, it wasn't destroyed, but they are going after civilians. And just a very simple fact, all the casualties all the Israeli casualties are civilians.
Yeah, and Israel's done an incredible job with its interceptions. I think that the number is anywhere from 85 to 95%, if more, of these missiles are being intercepted thanks to the Arrow 2, Arrow 3 missile defense system, which we actually saw on an airbase. I'm not going to say where for security reasons, but we saw this. It's incredible to see it at work. The challenge, though, with these cluster munitions is that, from my understanding, and maybe you can add to this, the warheads are loaded with these cluster bombs, and they detonate before being intercepted, and then they fan out, they spread out over several miles. I mean, kilometers, obviously, you guys use here, but that's why we see the damage in kind of a large swath of a region such as here, and then even damage at the central rail station.
John, you're absolutely right. They're trying to create as much as damage as possible. And they are aiming at civilians. But I'll tell you a secret. We're strong. We're determined. We're going to win this war. They are going after our civilians, but we will win this war. And we're determined that this war will be ended with a great triumph.
Well, and we're seeing that play out not only in Iran, but also the joint U.S.-Israeli cooperation and the air defense systems, the multi-layered system that Israel has, from Iron Dome, David Sling, Arrow 2, Arrow 3, soon Arrow 4, but also the U.S. Aegis and THAAD systems as well. And it's an incredible joint operation cooperation. Oren,
thank you.
Good to see you. Thank you so much. Guys, back to you.
Thanks so much, John Huddy. You know, the thing is, it's awesome to hear and see the resilience of the Israeli people during.
It sure is. If you didn't see, I got my kitty here with me. Oh, careful, kitty. Come back here, kitty. Come here. Not that anybody cares, but I do love my kitty. I am currently homeless. But Buck, how can you be live streaming in a house if you're homeless? Well, you see, I sold my house in December. Then I invested the majority of those proceeds in Bitcoin. And if you know what happened to Bitcoin near the end of December, then you'll know that I lost my ass. I put they're unrealized gains. You know, it's not a loss until you sell, right? Well, that's what I have done. I locked up my crypto and staking pools because Crypto.com, also, if you saw my other video on Crypto.com stealing from me, they owe me a couple of $1,000 because I enrolled in their plus tier, which specifically said there were no fees on the first $20,000 of trading you do per month. Well, they started charging me fees after the first 10,000. So by my calculations, they owe me about $2,000 in fees, and I am holding my crypto hostage. There was like $6,000 worth of transfers that hadn't gone through yet when they started this BS with me, so I stopped payment on those. So my Crypto.com account is negative $6,000, but my holdings are locked up in staking pools and they can't touch it. I'm probably going to lose that battle, but yeah, I am upside down. I lost like 70% of of my home, of the money that I got from selling my house, because I was also playing some derivatives and just loss after loss after loss. So yeah, I'm probably going to leave what I have left, which is minuscule. This all happened before I even got out of the house that I sold. It's been a disaster. It's been an absolute disaster, because I'm also waiting on so I had to pay back a bunch of people I owed money to as well. So a big chunk of that, probably about 20 grand out of the proceeds of my house, went to paying people back, and didn't really get very much for the house to begin with. But I lost probably about $65,000 in about 3 weeks. So what is left that is currently sitting at a hell of a loss, I refuse to take those losses. So I locked them up into staking pools, and I can't touch them for about a year if I wanted to. I mean, if I did, every dollar I spend would pretty much cost about $10, you know, when you work it all out and add in everything else that's associated with it. And yeah, so I'm currently waiting on a disability claim as well, and I'm right at the end of that. I'm waiting on my hearing. I've got really bad arthritis and back issues. I'm also diabetic. Yes, you can file for disability if you're diabetic, and I highly suggest anybody who has any kind of back issues and stuff like that, I highly recommend filing a claim for disability. That's not being a mooch on the government. That's your money, because it's Social Security that you paid into. So, yeah, I'm currently awaiting the hearing, which is literally the last stage. And in the meantime, I've been lucky enough to have a wonderful friend that's allowed me to stay in her house like the big bitch that I am. I feel like a hell of a mooch. I feel like a big time major league loser. So that's it's been on my mind a lot lately, and that's why I've been rather low energy. So I appreciate everyone sticking with me, and my one faithful viewer that's watching. I really appreciate your patronage, and hopefully things will turn around. Oh yeah, to make matters even more fun, I'm waiting on a tax return that's going on 7 weeks now. It's only supposed to take 3 weeks. I've even called the IRS, and all they can tell me, there's an error somewhere. They can't tell me what. They can't tell me if it's my fault or theirs. They can't tell me anything. I do believe, if I had to guess, it's because I sold my house and didn't file the return. However, the reason I didn't to begin with was because the IRS said, you know, if this, if that, if this, if you qualify, if any of these things apply to you, you don't have to file when you sell your house. And I fell under every one of those categories. On top of that, the closing attorney for the house also told me I didn't need to file it. However, when you look on irs.gov, they say regardless of whether or not you are exempt from all of these, to which I'm exempt on all of them, if they say regardless of any of those exemptions, if the closing attorney filed a 1099-S, you must file it. And they did. So I'm guessing that's the holdup. However, the IRS told me that they'll have some sort of resolution on or before April the 10th. So I'm reluctant to amend my tax return because I feel like it'll just bog down everything anyway. What I'm hoping is they'll realize that I don't need to file and then just push it through. So I probably need to just amend my return. But like I said, I'm reluctant to do that. And that is literally the only money that I've got coming that I desperately need, because I'm going to use that in conjunction with a friend of mine, and we're going to get our own little apartment. He's a veteran, and he's currently homeless as well. However, he's found a place to crash. But just like with my people, with the woman I'm crashing with, you don't want to overstay your welcome. I don't know about you, but I get really antsy when I feel like I'm taking advantage of somebody, and I definitely feel that way. Even though she's assured me that I'm not, people don't often say how they truly feel. And she's such a nice person. I feel like she's too nice. And that she, even if she was itching for me to get out, she probably wouldn't tell me until she's had like enough, But I do my best to be a mouse around here. Don't make any waves. If you watched any of my previous live streams talking about my homeless situation, you know that I was kicked out of my ex-grandmother-in-law. Yeah, she was letting me stay with her, and then decided to throw me out early on a Sunday morning when it was 26 degrees outside. It was 4 o'clock in the morning, mind you, on a Sunday. And she said that I was smoking cigarettes in her house, which I never fucking did. I'm pretty sure she just wanted me out. The funny thing is, as soon as I moved in, for the few days I was there, she put a deadbolt on her bedroom door. Like, really? This is my ex-wife's grandmother, who, when I first met her, she loved me to death because my ex-wife had certain issues I won't get into because it wouldn't be fair to her to expose, but she had her issues which I helped resolve, and her entire family loved me to death for it. The same woman who paid for our wedding. And she just totally snapped and just lost it and tried to say I was smoking in her house. Well, come on, man. If you're a smoker and you're staying anywhere near a non-smoker, you know that you can smell that shit a mile away. And it's disgusting to a non-smoker. Like, I would have to be one dumb, to which I'm not. So, yeah. The whole situation was just so stupid. I'm pretty sure she was just looking for a reason to get me out, and I even called her out on it and told her, I think you're making it up. I think you're lying just because you don't want me here. And I still believe that. Anyway, yeah, it's been an eventful past few months, to say the least. And I have, currently, I have a whopping $100 to my name, and I am foolishly trying to invest it in little futures contracts, namely Ethereum. But as you can see down here, I lost 17 out of that $100-ish. Yeah. The balance says 111. That's because I also took out a crypto loan of like $20-ish just to try and make those futures contracts weigh a little bit. Now you're talking about a potential profit of a couple of bucks, you know what I mean? This move right here is what cost me that $17. So I went ahead and pulled out because, yeah, I have to go buy stuff like cat food and cat litter for my faithful kitty companion, who is the only the only creature that's stuck by my side throughout all of the wonderful BS that's gone on in the last few months. But yeah, I am upside down. I'm in such a bad situation, and my YouTube channel, and Rumble for that matter, was just recently monetized in January, so that's good. However, since January the 5th, which is when my YouTube channel was monetized, since then I've made a whopping like $68, but I can't even cash that out because it's below the $100 threshold. And the majority of that is from super chats and from tips from wonderful people like you. So the majority of that's not even money that I was made through the ads that YouTube pays you for. Because, you know, YouTube loves to take, I think it's something crazy, like 40% or something wild of your tips. So, you know, if you ever want to give any creator any tip or any kind of, like, you know, nicety of any kind, if you ever really want to do that, you are much better off paying them directly through, like, you know, Venmo or PayPal or Cashapp or any of those. Even like this QR code that I've got up, that's that buy me a coffee link. And you can definitely donate that way, but even they take out a crazy amount in their fees. But you know what? 50% of $1 is still 50% more than I had. So if you've ever donated to this channel, I would like to be extraordinarily grateful, because it's people like you that keep me going and perpetuate my will to live. Because here lately, if I'm being totally honest, yeah, I probably can't express how I really feel on YouTube or Rumble. They would probably ban me if I told you how I really feel. But, you know, all the people that claimed they cared about me and claimed that they loved me, they show their true colors when you have a bit of a crisis on your hands. And to make things even more fun, about 2 years ago, my wife left me. Now, the reason she left, that was a pretty wild situation. Over the last 5 to 10 years, I've had a lot of close family and friends pass away through various reasons. My brother passed away from a very aggressive cancer that got into his spine, and then it was a matter of time before it hit his brain, and it was just so awful. If you've ever had any experience with cancer, then you know what I'm talking about. It is ruthless. God, is it ruthless. He passed away, I think it's been 3 or 4 years now. I can't remember. A lot of that's a blur. And then my best friend from high school, you know, one of my oldest friends that was still there, and, you know, the type of person that you would consider a best friend, somebody you could literally tell anything to, even if it's something horrible, and they still be right there for you. True, actual brotherly love. He passed away from a drug overdose. Heroin. In a hotel room. Which was like about a year after his own mother passed away. And they were very close, so he was taking it kind of hard, and I do believe that had a lot to do with why he was doing what he was doing. And it was those two individuals together, along with, already been out for a couple of days, when she sent me a message asking me if I minded if she stayed out another night. This was the day before Christmas Eve. And I had made plans for us, for me, her, and her 3 kids, to which I was a stepfather to. I had Christmas plans. And she wanted to go around and party and do a bunch of meth. And I was like, look, you've been gone for 2 days already. No. Come home or stay gone. And yeah, she made her choice. So that was 2 years ago that my wife left, and she left because I wasn't giving her enough attention because I was so obsessed with the people that I had lost in my life. How up is that? Like, you know, whenever anybody tells you about past relationship issues, it's always a bit skewed and one-sided, you know. People tend to leave out important information because of their biases. Believe me when I tell you that what I just told you is exactly what happened and exactly the reasoning that she took. I can say that the hand in all of it that I did play is that I was very disconnected. And that's the truth of it all. So it was in the year or two following when she decided to leave is when I decided I was going to sell my house. Because I am ready to leave America altogether. No, it's not because of any dumbass political reasons. It's just because, I mean, Americans are miserable people. We're one of the least happy people on the planet. And why is that? Well, you know, you can cite a multitude of reasons, but in 2008, I took a trip to Thailand, and ever since then, I have been trying my best to get back because Thailand is such a wonderful place. They call it the land of smiles for a good reason. So that was my main motivation behind selling my house in the first place, was to get the hell out of this country and go to a place where traditional gender roles are alive and well, where women know how to treat men, and where the basic happiness is way higher than it is here in America. All right, that's my spiel. I am going to go back to what we're seeing on the news here. While I go have a smoke 10 minutes before market opening, I shall return. Thanks for listening to my rant.
Look, that's something the president has refused to comment on. It's an option on the table for him, but I'm not going to comment on it or take it off the table. We've defined the objectives of Operation Epic Fury very clearly, which is, of course, to wipe out Iran's ballistic missile arsenal, which we have been very successful in doing. We've achieved dominance over the skies of Iran, to annihilate their navy, which we have done. According to CENTCOM this morning, I received the updated numbers. More than 120 naval vessels are at the bottom of the sea because of our United States Armed Forces. That's a great thing for the American people. That's a great thing for our allies in the region. And of course, to ensure that, yes, Iran cannot permanently cannot possess a nuclear weapon is something this president has long said for decades. But I'm not going to forecast or remove any future options off the table.
Still have the ability to produce a nuclear weapon or no?
Look, again, we're in a place right now where we're ensuring that Iran can no longer threaten the United States of America, and the United States military is doing a tremendous job at achieving these objectives.
Caroline, is Tulsi Gabbard's job in jeopardy right now, given the Joe Kent stuff?
Not to my knowledge. I haven't heard the president say that, nor have I heard him say that. So obviously that's a question for him, but I haven't heard him to say that at all.
And can you give us an update on what you're hearing from the Chinese about when this trip might be rescheduled?
We're working with them. They have agreed to postpone the trip. I think they understand the president's rationale for doing so. But again, we're working on those dates. The president has some things here at home in May that he has to attend to, and I'm sure President Xi is a very busy man as well. So we'll get the dates on the books as soon as we can, and we'll keep all of you posted.
Caroline, given that the allies seem to have rebuffed the president's request for help, and now he says he no longer needs their help, what is the plan to reopen the Strait of Hormuz quickly?
The president is going to continue to talk to our allies, both in Europe and also in the Gulf and Arab region. The United States military has a lot of capabilities, as you have seen play out over the last 18 days. They still do have tricks up their sleeve. I won't broadcast them for the media, but rest assured there is a plan. They're working on it. We have seen some progress with respect to that, but of course the president, again, continues to call on our allies to step up and do more. Nancy.
Caroline, a couple of questions on Joe Kent. The White House was warned last year when the president nominated Kent that he had a history of embracing conspiracy theories, that he had some ties to white nationalists. Given that, why did the president nominate him to the position in the first place?
The president spoke on this a little bit yesterday in the Oval Office. He said he always thought Joe Kent was a good guy, obviously has a commendable military record and experience. However, he was not someone who was involved in the presidential daily brief, part of the president's intelligence briefings over the last several months. Have not seen him here at the White House for quite some time, and the president feels it's deeply disappointing that after the president gave him an opportunity in this administration to serve the American people, that he would resign with a letter filled with falsehoods, accusing the president of the United States by being controlled by a foreign country. That's both insulting and laughable all at the same time. The president is the leader of the most powerful country and military in the world. Nobody tells him what to do. He makes decisions based on what's in the best interest of this country.
Sorry, the president said yesterday that he always thought Kent was weak on security. Why would he name someone to run the counterterrorism center who he thought was weak on security?
Again, I just told you, the president gave Joe Kent a chance. He thought he was a good guy with good military experience, and unfortunately, he proved he was not up for the job. And we don't want somebody leading the counterterrorism task force who cannot agree that the #1 state sponsor of terror in this world did not pose a threat to the United States. That's what another falsehood he said in his letter of resignation, which is just unequivocally false. It's backed by intelligence. It's backed by the fact that Iran was building ballistic missiles at a rapid rate to build a shield of immunity so they could build a nuclear bomb. And it's backed by the fact that the president of the United States made the decision to attack Iran before they could attack American troops and our assets and bases in the region. And that was, of course, a good decision, not just for the United States, but for the rest of the world. It should be commended. It should not be degraded in the form of a resignation letter that's riddled with lies. Thank you.
Thanks, Caroline.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, but I do want to take you out now. It does appear we're hearing from Senator Blumenthal. Let's head over and listen in live.
Sorry. I had to shoot over.
Yeah, I was like, wait, you have my other phone.
Totally forgot.
Thank you.
And we did just miss those comments there, but this is our live stakeout camera there on Capitol Hill, as once again, we are anticipating in just a matter of moments here this to begin, which is Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, President Trump's pick for Homeland Security Secretary, appearing before senators, slated for 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. So really, as I just said, any moment here now, we do have cameras inside as well as this live look you are taking outside there right now. And this is for the confirmation hearing, where he will face questions over his vision for the department. If confirmed, he'd replace outgoing Secretary Kristi Noem, who was reassigned earlier this month as criticism over her leadership of the Department of Homeland Security increased amongst Democrats. Now, Senate Democrats are set to question Senator Mark Wayne Mullen during this confirmation hearing today, which is his first hurdle to becoming the next Homeland Security chief. Mullen's confirmation hearing before the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee comes as the Department of Homeland Security remains shuttered over Democrats' desire for reforms to the agency's immigration enforcement operations. Senate Democrats on the panel plan to use those demands to gauge Mullen's willingness to make changes at the agency, and they have argued since current DHS Secretary Kristi Noem's reassignment from the position that changes must go beyond a shift in personnel. Senator Gary Peters is the top-ranking Democrat on the Homeland Committee, and he said he plans to give Mullen a fair shake, but has questions about his colleagues' views on how the agency could change with him at the helm. So that's one of our live looks, and it does appear our other live look inside has just gone out, and I was just going to bring that to you here. Oh, it looks like it's back. But as you can see, media still getting set up here ahead of this. So what we're going to do is step away for a commercial break. You can see the camera very zoomed in there as the press has their cameras. They're waiting for this to begin. So we are going to step away for that commercial break. On Live Now from Fox. More coverage on this next. Stay with us.
Okay, I don't know what that's all about. Let's see what Yahoo's saying. I am currently on a support chat with Coinbase because they're being stupid. But we are 2 minutes away from market opening.
New pick, Senator Mark Wayne Mullen faces his fellow senators on Capitol Hill this morning.
Let's see. We can see what's going on anywhere else.
From the very beginning. Alan, while we have you, I want to ask you as well.
I'm going to bring Bloomberg back up.
Don't do it because
they seem
of
to be on top of it.
We'll also learn lessons which we can apply to our work and daily lives. Tune into the podcast version of Leaders with Francine Lacqua. Listen and watch on Bloomberg Television or wherever you get your podcasts.
Come on.
From the world of politics to the world of business, Joe Matthew and Kaylee Lines deliver news, insight, and analysis live 2 times a day, every trading day. Balance of Power at 1 and 5 Eastern, only on Bloomberg.
bringing you up to them in the news whenever and wherever it happens. I'm Shevrian in Seoul, and this is Bloomberg.
Moments away from the start of trading, this is Bloomberg Open Interest. I'm Matt Miller. We're looking at futures that are now down. They had been up most of the morning, and we were looking at potentially another day of gains for stocks. Now futures, at least for now, in the red, 0.4% about on
there
NASDAQ
we go.
and S&P
There's
futures.
the market bell.
Almost double that on Russell 2000 futures on concerns about oil and energy infrastructure in the Middle East as this war escalates. Farmer Mac ringing the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange. A pretty diverse
Ethereum.
team over there, but look at this diversity, if you can call it that. Not one dude on the stage ringing the bell at the NASDAQ market site. And the cool thing is there is a Red Bull Racing Academy driver here with the chief commercial officer, I believe, of Rocked, and they're celebrating. Hopefully we see an opening up of Formula One. Hopefully we see rule changes.
NVIDIA taking a dive.
It's just that is not what they're doing there. The hybrid aspect is horrendous, and I hope that the women can make it better.
That's
Palantir taking a dive.
But, you know, opinion noted. It's fine.
Lockheed
Formula
Martin.
One isn't so good this season.
Surprise, surprise.
Battles, Lewis Hamilton is back in there.
Somebody behind the winning driver all of a sudden has twice as much power, or the guy in front all of a sudden gets cut down to nothing.
Do you hate DRS too? Should they get rid of that?
Yes. Absolutely.
Really?
Just naturally aspirated, big inch motors that wail as fast as they can at every part of the track.
You and I.
We are having a lot of red. A lot of red today upon market opening. It's looking like silver is trying to creep on up. The dollar running a high, buddy babies, running hot. That's largely because of oil, bet your ass. The U.S. Treasury yields have fallen. The dollar is stable ahead of the Fed's likely hold. Looks like Bitcoin just put a long signal up. Yeah, Yeah, I wouldn't go with that. Look how low. Look how low the RSI is. Yeah, that low RSI is not going to yield any move up anytime soon. Looks like the only sector doing halfway decent is electronic and energy. That's going to be your oil, your natural gas, all that stuff. Bitcoin sitting right around 72. Sure has moved a lot here recently in the last few days. Bitcoin will always be a good investment too. Long term. Long term. Emphasis on the long term. Let's go over to see what Bloomberg's talking about.
And actually last year, 6 of the 10 worst consumer sentiment numbers actually happened last year while spending was higher. And coming into this, the fear about the war, of course, is gas at the pump and what that's going to do to spending.
Not like we don't already know all that, right?
And, and China has a role to play. But that is, that is part of the story. The other part is that he would have to pay attention to the ongoing war in the Middle East. He knows that this could drag on for another few weeks. That is at least the initial assessment.
Yes, we all know that that's going. The war
economy is coming into this position of strength. And if you just look at the asset classes, before the open, the S&P was down 2.4%. Since the beginning of the war. Tech was actually up slightly. Yields now are up because of the fear about inflation, but gold is down 7% since the beginning of the war. So you have this really weird cross-asset mix of what the assets are telling.
A Trump-hating felon attacked me from behind in my yard. I was just straightening up from picking up a tree limb. I was wearing noise cancellation headphones. Never saw him coming. Running pell-mell down the hill. I was struck in the back. The force of the blow sent us through the air nearly 10 feet, down the hill until his shoulder impaled me as we hit the ground. 6 of my ribs were broken. 3 of the ribs were completely separated, such that for weeks, the ends of the ribs would grind upon each other. My lung was damaged. For weeks, I could inhale, but not have the rib strength to exhale. I developed 2 pneumonias. The pain was
Two
such that I could
pneumonias.
only sit up in bed by tying a rope to the foot of the bed and pulling myself up. But even then, the pain was that of 1,000 knives. Over the year of recovery, I began to cough up blood. I underwent removal of part of my lung. Complications led to an infection in the space between my lung and chest wall. I spent a week in the hospital having the infection lavaged every 6 hours through a chest tube. Recently, Senator Mullen, if you have time to listen, you were confronted by constituents that were angry because you voted against my amendment to stop all funding for refugee welfare programs. Instead of explaining your vote to continue these welfare programs for refugees, you decided to transfer the blame. You told the media that I was a freaking snake and that you completely understood why I had been assaulted. I was shocked that you would justify and celebrate this violent assault that caused me so much pain and my family so much pain. I just wonder if someone who applauds violence against their political opponents is the right person to lead an agency that has struggled to accept limits to the proper use of force. Being confronted by your constituents. But Senator Mullen, your constituents are justifiably upset with you. By now, most of America knows that the Somali welfare fraud in Minnesota stole over $9 billion. But instead of defending your vote, you took to continue the vote to continue these refugee welfare programs. You chose to lash out at me. You went on to brag that you'd already told me to my face that you completely understood and approved of the assault. Well, that's a lie. You got a chance today. You can either continue to lie or you can correct the record. You have never had the courage to look me in the eye and tell me that the assault was justified. So today you'll have your chance. Today I'll give you that chance to clear the record. Tell it to my face.
Yeah,
if
clear
that's
the
what you
record.
believe, tell it to me today. Tell the world why you believe I deserve to be assaulted from behind, have 6 ribs broken and a damaged lung. Tell me to my face why you think I deserved it. And while you're at it, explain to the American public why they should trust a man with anger issues to set the proper example for ICE and Border Patrol agents. Explain to the American public how a man who has no regrets about brawling in a Senate committee can set a proper example for over 250,000 men and women who work at the Department of Homeland Security. Senator Peters, you're recognized for your opening comment.
Well, thank you, Chairman Paul. Thank you, Senator Mullen, for being here today. Congratulations on your nomination. And I certainly appreciate your willingness to meet with me as well as my staff as we consider your nomination to serve as Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. I'd also like to welcome your family who is joining us today and to thank all of them for their commitment to public service. We do it as a family, as you know. The Department of Homeland Security is a complicated organization with challenging operational dynamics. As everyone is well aware, many components within DHS are currently operating without funding. But let's be clear, Democrats are committed to funding TSA, FEMA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, and the Coast Guard while we negotiate much-needed ICE reforms. We tried to pass those bills by unanimous consent multiple times over the past 2 weeks. Unfortunately, Republicans have blocked those bills each and every time. Yesterday, the White House sent a letter laying out their latest offer. The devil is always in the details. Administrative action is not enough. We need to pass real reforms into law. If Republicans really do agree with us that TSA and other personnel need to be paid, then they should join us and pass the bills to pay them today. We can do that while we continue to negotiate needed ICE reforms. But let me be clear, these are very straightforward reforms that we're asking for. We just want ICE to follow the same rules that our local police and our local communities follow every day. The DHS has faced management challenges since the start of the Trump administration, and over the past year, many of those challenges have unfortunately only increased. As soon as President Trump was sworn in, he made deep cuts to counterterrorism offices and programs, forced out or reassigned key personnel, and redirected the focus of limited remaining counterterrorism resources away from the serious threats that we face and towards targeting the president's perceived political enemies. The administration has also gutted our nation's main cybersecurity agency, once again forcing out or reassigning highly talented personnel, slashing budgets, and limiting agencies where private companies address significant cyber attacks and protect Americans from criminal hackers and support secure elections. The administration has also taken an axe to FEMA, cutting staff and freezing or delaying critical grant funding for everything from emergency food and shelter after a disaster to flood mitigation programs and security grants to nonprofits, including houses of worship. All these cuts and reassignments have been made at the expense of vital missions, including the core terrorism prevention and response mission the department was created to address. In doing so, the administration has broken trust between law enforcement and the communities they are intended to protect, a break that will have a generational impact on public safety and security. And now, after President Trump's reckless war of choice against Iran, the threats to our nation have
War
never
of
been
choice,
higher.
huh?
In my home state of Michigan, just last week, we saw both a major medical device manufacturer get hacked by an Iranian-backed group and a horrific violent attack on Temple, Israel, a Metro Detroit area synagogue. President Trump's unilateral and unchecked executive actions have put Americans at risk. And we need a
for God's
qualified
sake.
leader at the Department of Homeland Security to address these serious threats. The Homeland Security
action
Secretary
in Iran has put Americans at risk. Are you
from the department's
crazy?
own personnel to the American people?
Christ's sake,
and
I don't even want to listen to this
It's
jackass.
not the role of the secretary to be a cable news
God, how tone
commentator
deaf can you
wait for
possibly
crisis.
be?
The secretary's role is to lead the response and work to ensure
I guess I am going to
the
go right back to it, though,
department
because
actually lost the
I'm going to
crisis.
pull up Fox News.
The secretary
Not Fox
jumps to
News,
conclusions
live now
without
from
the
Fox.
facts,
But
as we saw in the
before,
case of
let's
Renee
see,
Good
no,
and
we're not going
Alex
to see
Reddy
Bloomberg saying they're in a
killings.
commercial with a
Only
bunch of
worsens the
music playing that I don't care
situation and
about.
makes us less safe.
It looks like
This is
everybody's
a
doing
world
this
where
Senate confirmation,
matters, where
or confirmation hearing.
matters, and where
Schwab,
experience
we are
matters.
talking about Bitcoin.
We have seen under Secretary Noem's leadership how shortcomings in these traits can compound the challenges that already come with leading a large and complex department. And now more than ever, we need a DHS secretary
No,
with a
guess not.
steady hand who will provide thoughtful leadership, follow the facts, tell the truth, and hold agency officials accountable when they need to be held accountable. We need a DHS secretary who's committed to the rule of law and will protect and cooperate with independent oversight, whether that's from the Inspector General or from members of Congress. And we need a DHS secretary who's free from distractions and conflict of interest that only undercut the department's work and also break trust with the American people. So I appreciate being here today to answer our questions, about these concerns, and your qualifications for the job. I'm interested in hearing more about your vision for leading the department. I do have reservations about your readiness to take on such a significant role at such a critical time. I hope you'll provide us with the substantive answers today and a candid recognition of where this administration has fallen short on safeguarding our homeland security as you seek to lead the department as our nation faces ongoing security threats and war with Iran.
Senator Mullen.
but as safe havens to avoid the banking system and confiscation of their assets.
So this Bitcoin bank model, we think of the ETFs that actually don't own Bitcoin. They are future, right, ETFs on Bitcoin. Some of them don't actually own Bitcoin.
Yeah.
does this bank model work? You know, are you owning actual Bitcoin, or how are you playing this?
So the way our model works is extremely simple. Every single client gets their own vault. So if we have 1 million clients, we're literally managing 1 million vaults as a fiduciary, which means my clients come first on behalf of our clients, where the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and people had to fight to get their assets back.
Right.
This is a much better way to look at the world, because it's an asset protection scheme at the same time, right, that you're basically investing in the future.
Okay, and I mean, that sounds perfect, right? I mean, it sounds like customer
It's a very hard
first.
model to implement.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like customer first,
Exactly.
and people worry about their wallets or
That's right.
losing them or hacking or things like that, and you're taking all those worries away.
Sorry for trying to. I'm on support with friggin' Coinbase because they're retarded.
Spending, marketing, and spending. How will your company make some money?
Yeah, so we're first and foremost a traditional wealth advisor in that regard. So we make an asset management fee, which is very reasonable.
Right.
And we also provide access to third-party trading services within our platform to buy and sell the digital assets you might be holding. So we might make trading fees on those transactions as well. And it's basically as simple as that.
So you and I had a conversation right before we came on air, and you really have had your footprint here on Wall Street for many years. How are you feeling about the current environment? I'd love to pick your brain. I enjoyed our conversation. I just wanted to see how you're feeling, because the S&P is about 5% off the highs. You see your Bitcoin moving higher. I call it your Bitcoin because that's part of your life at this point. Tell me more about how you're feeling and bringing a company public in this environment.
Sure. That's an interesting question. Look, intra-year volatility for S&P 500 is probably 25% on average, meaning 10 to 15% to the downside, up to 10 to 15% to the upside. And so we're in that range right now.
Right.
A lot of people feel World War III is breaking out when you think about Iran and you think about, Ukraine and, Chinese ships circling Taiwan and all these things. I don't know. I don't think so, at least not yet. I hope it stays that way. But I feel like right now, at least so far, we're going to get back to some sense of normalcy in the coming weeks, right?
Yeah.
There's too much at stake for Iran to continue as is. So it just feels like this year, I think in 6 months, we won't be talking about Iran and the Strait of Hormuz anymore, would be my guess. And I think that markets will most likely have some upside given the liquidity that has to be injected right now. So personally, I do think there's a global reset going on from a financial perspective, right? A lot of people are worried about U.S. hegemony right now and what that means in other countries. And we'll see how that plays out. That's one of the reasons why Bitcoin is up while everything else is down in the last 3 weeks. That's an interesting story as well, in my opinion. But I do think we'll have some sense of normalcy in the coming weeks.
Bill, thank you for being with us today. Bill Barhydt, CEO and founder of Abra, and you can look for it when it becomes publicly traded. ABRX will be the ticker symbol, and we'll have you back, and we'll refocus at that time. I'm looking forward to that conversation. Thank you so much. Congratulations to you and the team, Bill. Coming up, the key levels to watch on the charts. We'll be right back.
What am I?
Safety and security.
Are y'all hearing a bunch of BS? Internet connection here is being retarded.
They're simply going to be eaten away by AI. It's probably too early to say exactly which ones those are going to be and how big it's going to be, but in an industry that has 20, 30, sometimes even more % of their loans in software, you have to imagine that some significant part of that is going to get into trouble and there will be losses in that space. How long it takes and just how bad it is going to be seen, and unfortunately, you've got a lot of investors who'd rather not wait around to see how bad it gets.
Is there any concern that this could morph into a structural issue? Christian, Bill Dudley says, no, this won't turn into another 2008. I guess the major systemic problem is if insurance companies have too much of this stuff and it starts to go bad.
Yeah, well, we always, over all credit cycles, you always have to look for leverage on leverage. That's, leverage is okay, borrowing is okay. It's where you borrow to make loans that can be difficult. And that was the hallmark of 2006, 2007, and going into 2008, is there was that leverage on leverage.
Those were some bad loans. We are slowly approaching something similar. That's why I've been saying I do believe there's a crash incoming. I need to put this on because I have to go handle some BS with support.
Market Committee, Federal Open Market Committee, and Fed Chair at 2:30. Your thoughts?
I'll be back, guys. I'm sorry.
Well, there's a lot going on today. I think obviously the Fed is going to be important in terms of the context for policy outcomes going forward. We do have every other meeting our summary of economic projections, so that's going to be in play today. So we'll get some guidance in terms of the dot plot, as well as estimated, GDP, the aggregates, GDP, employment, as well as inflation. Right now, I just think that there's a warflation premium still built into this market, assuming, again, looking at the PPI numbers, which are still relatively hot. There's a hawkish tilt towards the Fed's probably commentary associated with inflation still being very elevated, and of course crude oil. I think the crude oil markets right now still very sensitive. Every time we get a little bit of a backing off of crude, markets seem to pick up. Yesterday was actually a good sign. We did see crude oil higher, but also the market higher. But again, this tension in the Middle East could heat up again with some of the destruction in the Iranian supply as a form of punishment. And that's unfortunate because, again, we saw in the pre-markets, the markets overall in the equity space were moving higher. Then as soon as crude oil moved higher, we saw the equity space start to sell off.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting hearing from Bill, who really has been here from Abra a moment ago, just saying that in 6 months he doesn't think this is going to be the same conversation at all, and that's what most people are sort of counting on. Alex, at the same time, we've had so many names in focus. NVIDIA with the GTC conference, we continue to cover that. Micron earnings are due today after the close. You're focusing on that.
Yeah, and for good reason, right? This stock has taken over market leadership. It's a stock that's sitting at all-time highs despite all that's going on. A huge move implied given the size and stock price that we're talking about, 33 some dollars. Implied percentage about 7.5%, which is larger than the average move throughout history for a name like Micron. Average absolute value of the price change is about 6.5% historically. And if you were to look at the last 5, last quarter it was up 10.2% on its earnings release. Well, that broke a streak of 4 straight negative price reactions. So Micron investors hoping that these records continue, and the records not only in stock price, margins are set to reach a record as well as the memory demand around AI continues to drive the performance. And because that supply has been constrained, it's allowed these companies to set record after record when it comes to margins that they're actually making on these products. So Micron in the right place at the right time and has been able to capitalize on it. We'll see if that leadership can continue.
I'm still also, thank you for that, Alex. I'm still also just, really looking at Bitcoin as things are selling off. It's up 10% this month. So I think it was really apropos to have the Abra CEO on with us. People are looking for different kinds of safe havens. George, your final thoughts here.
Well, yeah, I think, yesterday, speaking of safe havens, the gold market was selling off as well. So again, I do think that there's a bid to this market. I just think that right now we could certainly see another decline, at least short term, until we get some resolution in the Middle East. So every day the news heats up in that region of the world, it's just cascading into a risk premium in crude oil space. And that's, again, unfortunately placing a cap on the equity premium that we should see. So again, the accumulation is still there. I do think institutions are willing to buy this market, but unfortunately, like I said, anytime this the news in the Middle East starts to heat up again, we do see a little bit of taking the foot off the gas pedal, so to speak. So that's something you got to keep in mind in this market, because again, we could certainly see another spike to crude oil on the upside in case there's another escalation of bombing in the Middle East.
How about Apollo? Up 7.5% this week, right? It's only Wednesday. Nice pop back there for Apollo. Okay, Alex Coffey, George Sillis. Thank you, Alex and George. Nice to see you both. And keep it right here on Schwab Network. Morning Trade Live is next.
Schwab Bank Investor Checking, the checking account built for investors. Named highest in client satisfaction by J.D. Power for 7 years in a row. With Investor Checking, you get the award-winning features of our checking account, plus cash management solutions, all designed for investors like you, with unlimited ATM fee rebates for cash withdrawals worldwide, no overdraft fees, and enhanced security features to keep your money safe. Also, because your investor checking account is linked to your Schwab One brokerage account, you can manage your checking and investing in one convenient location. Moving funds between your accounts is easy. Cash moved to your brokerage account is available in seconds. That means you can stop waiting and start investing in stocks, bonds, money market funds, and more. Get more with Schwab Bank Investor Checking, the checking account built for investors.
Welcome to Schwab Network, where real-time market coverage meets expert strategy.
From the opening bell to the closing bell, we've got you covered.
Get inside the minds of pro traders.
My point is that they're getting a higher rate of change in sales based on their guidance, but not the same rate of change on EPS.
Follow the biggest headlines, live analysis, breaking news, and sharp trade ideas minute by minute.
With shows built for action, we break it all down in real time with speed, accuracy, and precision.
I think one of the most important things is you're making a play in a risk-defined way here going into earnings.
So that would be a further downside area to watch.
Smart insights, actionable data, veteran traders, and trusted financial journalists streaming live and on demand.
Schwab Network, streaming 24/7, any screen, anywhere, free. SchwabNetwork.com.
Mom, when my grandparents moved here, did they know what our family would become?
I don't even know if they could envision it. To leave everything behind, literally come across the entire world. I think that we totally met what their wishes were. Schwab has been with us for almost 25 years through purchasing of houses, opening up our business, having children. They've always been there for us.
I want to invest with a company that can help me give my family a happy financial future.